I hope this time is centered because that was my biggest concern last time. And even in editing, I could not figure out whether it was centered or not. It was that bad. I was so confused. Like, there's no middle point. I'm still holding the mic in my hand because I do not want to spoil my favorite sweater by plugging a mic into the fibers of it. And I like this sweater. I like how it looks on me. I am not going to ruin it for a YouTube video. There might be background noises. I implore you to ignore them because I can't do anything about them. So if the mic picks up, it picks up, but just ignore them. I'll add a soothing background music on the top of it. Yay! Today we are wrapping up whatever I read in January, which is a bit ironic because I think I've already wrapped up what I read in January in the first video of the channel. So if you've watched that, chances are that this will be a repeat for you. But at the same time, please continue watching. I think in that video I talked about 5 books, and ever since then I've finished only a single book, and I'm in the middle of the 7th book of the year, which is a bit of a chunker, which is also probably why it's taking me so goddamn long to finish that book. Anyway, enough explanations. Let's just get into it. This will be a short and sweet video as the first video was. So, yeah. Slurped coffee a bit too quickly. Mwahaha. The first book is Death at the Morning House by Maureen Johnson, and I did not expect to start this year with a 3-star book, but here we are. There is no way I loved the starting. I loved how the banter worked in the beginning. I loved how the characters were talking to each other in the beginning. Please don't ask me to recall the name of the characters because it's been a month, a long month. January's been a long month. I do not remember anything. But yeah, in the beginning, the banter was lovely and it was hilarious. It was dry and I loved it. The moment we passed like 50 or 100 pages, I started looking forward to the chapters in the past of like from Clara's perspective. I only remember Clara's name. But at the same time they were shorter, they would end far more quickly, and the present POV, I do not remember that character's name. The present POV was a bit, lulling, and it was slow and it dragged out things. And I don't know, I just did not. The lulls got harder and harder to ignore. So that was, not a good read, not a good first read of the year, but at the same time I could always just count it in my previous year's reading goal. But this will always just be one of those books. I started it last year, I ended it this year, so it'll always be on the cusp books. So yeah, was not expecting my first read of the year to be a 3-star read. Maybe it was just me and other people probably enjoyed it more. I read it at the wrong time. I don't know what happened there, but I just could not get past how boring the present POV was. I can't believe I'm being so honest with my opinions when I have like 37 subscribers. The second book I read this year was White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It was one of those books you always saw somebody recommending in your For You page the whole of last year. I think Jack from Jack Edwards, the channel, recommended it and everybody started recommending it. I also know that Jack talked about this book in like one of his end of the year videos, and like how it had impacted, like how his video seemingly had impacted the sales of the book, which was honestly like, damn. Wow. I do not know where I saw it. I do not remember where I heard it, but somebody said, you think you know love and then you read White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And that was true. There are 2 kinds of love. The first love is where you actually love the person, actually love the personality of the person, just a normal sort of love. The second love is where you're sort of attracted to the idea of that person that you've made up in your own head, and you do not realize it at the time. It's only after a few years have passed, or it's only once you've gotten over them that you realize that, oh, okay, This is what that was. This is I was in love with an idea of them, a perception of them, an interpretation of them. And White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky captures that beautifully. That you think you know somebody, that you think that love at first sight happens very quickly, and like you can, of course it does in certain cases, but more often than not it is our projection of our own emotions at the time onto that person. It is how we interpret the situation. It is how we process the information provided, like the context clues and stuff. A lot of it has to do with where we are in life at the time as well. So yeah, White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky, it captures that beautifully. It's a short story. You can read it in a single sitting. The narrator is unnamed as they are like walking the streets of St. Petersburg, and they see this girl, this very young girl, waiting for somebody, Nastenka. The girl's name is Nastenka, or at least that is how I pronounce it. Please don't come after me for my pronunciations. My pronunciations are very weird. Like, it's an amalgamation of British, American, and Indian English. That is what we are working here. And Indian English of the northern side, not not Delhi, north west. Punjab, I don't know. Like White Nights beautifully captures how Nastenka is waiting for a guy who she thinks is not going to come, but she still hopes that he will come. Kind of reminiscent of how the current 21st century people, wait for a text from the people we like. We realistically know that it's not going to come, it's not going to happen, it's not going to pan out. But does that stop us from imagining things? Does that stop us from being Delulu? My best friend can tell you it does not at all. Then, keeping up with the love theme, the one sided, unrequited love theme, we have read Simple Passions by Annie Ernaux. This was recommended to me by Nunopal. Not personally. She did not personally recommend me. She recommended it on her Instagram, and that is where I found this book. Again, it deals with a sort of love you think you would know more about, given that so many people experience it, but once you are in it, you do not realize it. But Annie Ernaux, the author, very carefully toes the line between what's reality, what's fiction. I still don't know. I have not researched the history of this book, history of this short story. So I do not know whether it was real, whether it was not, whether this thing happened, whether this thing did not happen. But at the same time, it was so captivating, it was so engrossing. Like, you read this book in a single sitting, you cannot put it down. It's that sort of book. But at the same time, you are seeing this woman struggle and to cope up with the loss of a lover, essentially, and how she understands that like this person will not love her back as much as she does, but at the same time she cannot do anything about it. She just has to go through it. She just has to survive through it. She just has to go through the motions of being in a love that is unrequited. It's not something that you do voluntarily, but it just sort of happens. And this book captures that essence of having a crush, essentially, so quickly and so easily. If you have experienced an unrequited love, if you are in a situation right now where you think unrequited love is where you are at, I would recommend reading Simple Passion, because there is so much in this book that you would relate to. There is so much in this book to take home with you that you just end up underlining, more than half of the book. I did squats yesterday for the first time. I can feel them in my thighs. Sometimes I told myself that he might spend a whole day without thinking about me. I imagined him getting up, drinking his coffee, talking, laughing, as if I did not exist. Compared to my own obsession, such indifference filled me with wonder. How could this be? He himself would have been astonished to find out that I never stopped thinking about him from morning to night. There was nothing to suggest that my attitude was more justifiable than his. In a way, I was luckier than him. The book beautifully captures the essence of being in a one sided relationship in like 80 pages. So, yeah, would recommend it. This was my first 5-star of the year. The fact that I related to it so much is neither here nor there. The next book I read was The Velveteen Rabbit. This was one of those books that I saw somebody reading on Instagram as their first book of the year. It's a children's book. It's a book where one of those toys comes to life. They just talk about how toys are ignored sometimes and how toys can be important. Like, certain times when kids get obsessed with specific toys, they just only focus on them, and that is all there is to it. But it's also a lovely story of a toy rabbit coming to life, and I would recommend this. If you are looking for a fun, light time, this is definitely worth reading. But I also do not have too many thoughts about this book. So this section will be really, really short. The fifth book of the year that I read, or the fifth book of the January that I read, was Nona Opal's Fool Me Twice. It's right there, but I'm not going to get up again. It follows a protagonist as she comes of age. Bani, Ashish. I can't believe I remember the side characters' names and I do not remember what that main character was called. Like, at all. Sana! The book follows Sana as she navigates her life with being shifted to moved to section E, where she does not have any friends, where she meets Bani and the first love of her life, Ashish. We go from there. It switches from how they navigate school to the shift in college, how Ashish has plans to go abroad, and how Sana wants to study in Delhi University as an English major. And we follow their lives and how they grow up, how they navigate through things. There is a twist that I did not see coming at all. I still can't believe I read this book 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago now? I finished this book so goddamn long ago. I still can't believe that she put that twist in. I thought we would have like a mature conversation and then we would move on. But my god, wow. It deals with how love at that age is everything. The representation of college is something else entirely in all of our minds, and it is not the reality at all, at least in India. When my first year in college, even I thought that I would have like all these cool experiences, but there was barely any time for any of it. It navigates love, it navigates grief, it navigates friendship at the core of this book. So, yeah, it's a good book if you are looking for good Indian representation of, just how college is sometimes and how school can be for certain people. And yeah, I wish this book existed when I was in that age, when I was making that transition from school to college, because I went into my college with some serious, unrealistic expectations, which never really panned out. People look back on their college experiences with such fondness. I just look back and see sullied expectations from my own side. Fool Me Twice by Nona Opal. If you are Indian, if you are making that transition from school to college, I would definitely recommend this book. It does feel like a hug on a winter's evening. I don't know why. Last but not least, I read Roshni Chokshi's The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. When I tell you that I did not seriously take all those booktubers who were saying that this was the best book, this was the best book. At least for the month of January, this was the best book I read. I do not remember how many stars I gave to this book on Fable, but at the same time, my god, what a book this was. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, as much as it is a fictional book, it is also a meditation on how fairy tales work and how fairy tales impact us growing up, how important they can be, how formative they can be, how it can shape a person's entire life. And there are certain sentences which were beautiful. In the end, a fairy tale is nothing more than a sense of hope. Hope lurks in tricks. It tempts with shining thrones, exquisite nectars and loving arms. It whispers to us that we are extraordinary, exempt, thus lured we follow its path. Sometimes we are led to riches, other times we are led astray. You will not see the twist coming. That is all I have to say about this. There are four characters in this book of importance. There's Indigo, there's Azure, there's the husband or the bridegroom, and there's the aunt of Indigo. Aunt of Indigo, I would classify as a side character. Azure only exists in the past of the book, and how Azure's existence and Indigo's existence was interwoven through their childhood. But currently, as we are reading from the bridegroom's perspective is in the present, while Azure's perspective is in the past. The bridegroom is trying to figure out what happened in Indigo's past. Indigo's past has always been a question, something that Indigo has forbidden the husband to ask about, the bridegroom to question or to, even try to explore at all. And we go from there. The fact that Indigo's past is not available to the husband is what makes the husband curious, is what makes the husband navigate through all those questions, and his curiosity gets the better of him. The reveal at the end was not something I was hoping for or expecting at all. Like, I thought it was going to be one thing, but it turned out to be an entirely different thing than what I was thinking. So that was wow. Yeah, that was truly something. I'm also currently reading The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I am 25% of the way through, and it's interesting to say the least. So far, yeah, it's interesting. That is all I'll say. I'll reserve my thoughts for my February wrap up, which I'm really excited about for no reason at all. That is all. I know this is a much shorter January wrap up compared to other booktubers, but I also have to acknowledge again and again and remind everybody again and again that I work full time. So the fact that I read like 6.5 books bodes well for me. So if I'm able to keep up this average of 6.5 books a month, I will have read 78 books by the end of December, which is a whole 26 books above my reading goal, which is 52 books a year. And I think I will be really, really happy with that, considering that like I work 6 days a week, 9 hours a day, and I barely have any energy left by the end of it. That would be amazing. That would be the ideal situation, if I'm honest. That is it. That is all there is to my January wrap up. I'll see you soon in the next video, which I am going to record today. I do not know the decorum of like recording multiple videos in a single day. Do I change my outfit, or is it okay? Will you guys be okay? I don't know. I'll see what I'll do. That'll be a surprise for you next week. Tune in to see whether I did change anything in the way I like prepared myself to shoot this video. Thank you for tuning in to my January wrap up. This was very, very lovely to do. I'm really excited for what's in store for the channel. I have vague ideas. Let's just say that. I have vague ideas. I am again doing the thumbnail thing. I'll probably trim this. This is not cute every single time.